Welcome everyone to the SheSpeaks series brought to you by the MarketHER group. The SheSpeaks video series is aimed at amplifying the voices of women in marketing, providing tools, tips, and ideas that will help accelerate our peers and deliver insights that inspire empathy and drive change across the marketing industry. So, Charity, it is so good to have you here. Welcome to the series.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Charity is an experienced digital producer and email marketing specialist. She's worked with some phenomenal companies, including Victoria's Secret, the Banana Republic, Sephora, and Benefit Cosmetics. So some names that we all know. She's also a content entrepreneur for her own 5-minute podcast called Life's Questions and Answers. Be sure to check it out.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you. So we have just a few questions that we want to go through. We're going to keep this pretty concise, as you know, as our typical events go this way. Keep it pretty concise, but we really want to hear and learn from your experience and your insights.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So my first question is about some of the challenges that women in marketing face. It's what challenges do you see women in marketing facing?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. I would say, for myself, one of the challenges that I'm constantly kind of coming up against is explaining or really positioning the power of empathetic communication. A lot of times we come up with these strategies that we think this is what the customer wants, or we're looking at the data, but there's just this misunderstanding of really being empathetic to the customer and understanding who they are and being able to just start that conversation through that marketing messaging and understand their challenges, their pain points. So it almost feels like you're talking to them, you're not selling to them. So that's probably one of the top ones I see in most of the conversations I have at work.
That's an awesome one. We actually just had a pro talk on that. And that hit that really hard. Like, how do we talk to our customers in order not to sound like a salesperson? So definitely a much needed topic. So my next question is about positive change. So what would you change if you could change anything for women in the marketing industry? What's something that you feel like, if I had the power, I think this would make a real difference?
I'd say access. I would say for me, it was very hard for me to pivot into marketing. So prior to where I started, I was an executive assistant, I was a flight attendant, I did sales, customer service, like all these jobs that I was kind of picking up these different strategies and skills. And I didn't really have too much of a problem navigating through all those different careers. But when I tried to apply for marketing roles, it was very challenging. So I think now, this was many moons ago, but I'd say now what I'd love to have is really this almost like cross connection between industries and people who want to pivot into marketing. And even if I'm thinking like big vision, having a community of people who understand all of the crossover skills and they can kind of have that access to a particular marketing job for someone who might not have that particular title in their resume. That's a whole other conversation, but a lot of times it's hard for people to see, well, if you don't have this particular title, if you don't have this particular experience, that means you're not going to be able to transition into this type of role successfully. And that's not really true. There's so many innate skills that we have and gifts that transition into a lot of different roles, especially in marketing. I mean, you know how to communicate with people. If you know how to make someone feel seen and heard, that is huge. Like, that's really what I feel like we need. So yeah, that would definitely, or should say those things would definitely be something that I'd love to see change in the very near future.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that I touched on with the last segment that we did in this series. And it was a person who's pretty fresh out of school, and so trying to establish themselves in marketing and up against big challenges. And I hear this conversation a lot, like the struggle is real, right? So yeah, I think that it's really interesting. All right, actually, I'm not even gonna further comment on that. But absolutely, I think that it's a real problem. It's definitely a real problem. Number 3, and so I'm curious to know what I'm sorry, I lost my spot for a second. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Ooh. I mean, it's funny because I feel like the advice that I would give my younger self is also the advice I would give my current self. And it's just to give yourself grace. Like, I feel like when I was younger, I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. I felt like everybody else had their careers, had their path, had their journey. And my journey has been like, I don't know what shape this is, but, it has been all over the place. And for the longest time, I thought there was something wrong with me. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong that I don't know how to get from point A to point B? And it wasn't until probably, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years into working, in the professional world, in the corporate world, I was like, no. There's nothing wrong with you, A. And B, you follow your curiosity. And that is one of the most beautiful things. That's why I started one of the reasons why I started my podcast was to just get people to understand that curiosity will lead you where you need to go. And so I really, really feel like if I would have known, A, there's nothing wrong with you, and just give yourself the grace, give yourself, everything happens for a reason. Every piece of experience that I have come up with along the way from all these different industries, some of the companies that you mentioned as well, like everything prepared me for what I'm doing right now. And every step prepares you for the next step, prepares you for the next lesson. So definitely, same, like I said, that's the same advice I would give myself right now.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I feel you saying that all the time. Every time that I talk to you, I feel like that's the energy, that's the vibe that you put across. So love it. All right, my last question is about mentorship. So what value do you place on mentorship? I know you have mentors. I almost consider you one of my mentors. Like, you just listening to your podcast, it's just my conversations with you. I always just leave so energized. But how would you answer that question?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because we talk about this too, because I'm considered you my mentor. I mean, when we first met, I was like, I want to know her. I could just feel your energy through the screen. And anytime a woman is doing something to positively impact the lives of others, I'm there. I'm like, whatever I can help with, do I need to connect you to someone? If I can help you, I'm helping you. And if I can't help you, I'm going to figure out somebody else that can help you, and y'all can, talk. But yeah, it's interesting because I kind of see my business as mentorship. I mean, it's not one-on-one, it's through a podcast, but I really take time to think about, what is she struggling with? Like, what does she need to hear today? And I do have actual mentees. So I have some calls weekly and monthly. So I place a very high value, to your point, very high value on being a mentor, just in terms of helping others help themselves. I think it's really important to understand like where the person is and meet them where they are instead of trying to like pull them to where, you think they should be. And the way that I do that is through questions, asking questions that, provoke thought. But yeah, definitely, have my mentees and my mentors. So there's a lot of emphasis placed on that. So if I don't have time for anything else, I'm gonna have time for the essentials. And mentorship is really important to me. And I will say too, Natalie, a lot of people don't think about this, and I didn't think about this until recently. Reverse mentorship is very important. So a lot of times you might have someone who's just in a different time in their life or different season, whether it's career or personal growth or whatever the case may be, and they feel like they don't have anything to offer. But we all have some innate gifts that we think are just normal, right? Like when I was told you need to go help people ask themselves questions, I was like, what do you mean? Everybody asks themselves questions. Everybody knows how to make decisions and go through the question, process. And my wise council members, the people around me, that my mentors, right? People that I think of as mentors, were like, no, Charity, everybody doesn't do that. So I think it's really important to have that reverse mentorship as well, to be able to listen to somebody who's in a different position, maybe different season, different, whatever the case may be, different, the way they think, and have that reverse mentorship as well, because that really is only going to help us grow as well, which is the goal, right? For all this, we're just trying to grow.
Absolutely. I think that one of the things that may make some people feel a little bit hesitant about mentorship is along the lines of exactly what you mentioned. Like they don't want someone else to tell them what their path should be, and it shouldn't be that way. I remember being in art school. Everybody may not know that I went to art school, but that's my background. And I mean, everybody would put their artwork up on the wall, and most people in the class would start telling you what they would do with your painting, if they were you. And it's like, that's not what that person's trying to accomplish. It doesn't make sense for them. So that is a real skill to have. And it sounds like you have it. It also sounds like you've participated in one-on-one mentorship, peer-to-peer mentorship, and even maybe like an advisory board for yourself. It sounds like you have. Which would be your favorite? Any of those?
One-on-one is always my favorite. Yeah, I if I couldn't do anything else, 100% one-on-one mentorship. Yeah. Now, if we're just talking about regular conversations, I have some requirements for my one-on-one conversations, because I don't just be talking to everybody, because some people just talk foolishness, and I'm like, take that somewhere else. But in terms of mentorship, I think, I really enjoy deep, meaningful conversations. Yeah. Conversations that are going to challenge my thinking, conversations that are going to shift my beliefs, my values. It makes me go, that's really interesting. Like, that's really what I live for. I love for people to say, I never thought about it like that when I say something. So that's what I look for. I'm like, I never thought about it like that. So it's challenging to have that type of deep conversation in a group setting. It's been done, but when you're in a group, it's just, vulnerability is a little more challenging to kind of have that space for. It happens, but like I said, it's definitely different. So one-on-one is by far, my favorite type of mentorship, for sure. And I have more one-on-one mentorship conversations than any other type. So yeah.
Well, Charity, much appreciated. You've given us some golden nuggets to chew on. Golden nuggets. I'm talking about McDonald's kind of nuggets, not real good. Anyway.
Like chicken nuggets? Now I'm hungry. Wait a minute now. I'll take it. I'm not at it. I will take it.
So it's a lot that you packed in there. And I mean, I don't think I need a full recap. I'll put a few notes in the description here, but I guess my main takeaway would be for the audience would be definitely check out the podcast. Again, the name of the podcast is Life's Questions and Lessons. I didn't even know there were 5-minute podcasts, but it is the most impactful 5 minutes I listen to in my week. So I advise, I highly recommend it. I'll say it like that. Otherwise, what would I say? I appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate your transparency so much. You tell it like it is. You give it to us straight. And I absolutely agree with you on mentorship. It is such a valuable element in any company or for any individual. And it's something that most of the Fortune 500 companies value a lot. But I think that it takes some convincing for the everyday person to want to come to that table and know that it's not going to be someone trying to force their thoughts on you or their ideas of what you should be doing with your life, but really trying to ask you the right questions to guide you along your path. So it's been great. This has been a great segment. I love it so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Natalie. This was awesome. Appreciate the conversation.
Thanks for being here, Charity.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.